Robinson pitches to Rafael Ramirez, who hits his 4th home run of the year to get the game even 2-2. Bottom of the 7th inning. Will Clark, hitting over 400 against the Astros this year, takes Danny Darwin downtown, uptown, and crosstown for his 17th home run. And the Giants beat the Astros 4-2. Today at Candlestick Park, with the Giants leading the Astros by 2 games in the series, it'll be Mike Scott and Mike LaCoste as the Astros and the Giants meet on the NBC Game of the Week.
The National Broadcasting Company, now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's magical moments. Baseball's miracles. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week.
A beautiful summer's day here in the Bay Area. To Candlestick Park to see if they can catch the San Francisco Giants. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully along with Tom Seaver. Welcome to Candlestick Park, Game 2 of a big 3-game series between the Giants and the Astros. It is the 11th meeting of the year between the two teams. The Giants have a slight edge. They've won 6 of the 10. Interestingly enough, the Giants have won 4 in a row here, and they lost 4 out of 6 in the Astrodome. The Giants get enough publicity because of Clark and Mitchell. The Astros are almost a little-known quantity. In fact, the most ink the Astros got this year was the fact they were clobbered by the Cincinnati Reds the other day, 18-2. And there's not very much ink on their manager, Art Howe, and yet the team is playing well, and Art is managing well. Let's meet him right now and go to Tom.
Thank you, Vinny. When you hear about the outstanding managers in Major League Baseball today, you hear about Buck Rogers of Montreal, Doug Rader with the California Angels, Don Zimmer with the Cubs, and we haven't heard too much about Art Howe, and you've done a terrific job with this ball club, Art.
Well, I appreciate it, Tom, but the players deserve all the credit. They've come out and played great baseball for me. The first month we struggled a little bit, but we turned it on with a nice win streak, and we've been playing great baseball since.
We had you earlier in the year on a Game of the Week in Chicago, and to tell you the truth, I was a little skeptical. I did not think that you had enough offense to keep your club in contention, but you've done just that.
Well, sometimes we can look a little ugly at times. If you saw us in Cincinnati a couple of days ago, you'd have thought we had no chance. But we've scrap and scrape for everything we can get, and really our pitching has been our mainstay. They've kept us in games, especially our bullpen. They've come out and just thrown nothing but goose eggs for us, and it's given us an opportunity to win games late.
You have one of the best records, the best record on the road in your club, which has been historically a better ball club at home, but you're playing very well on the road.
Yes, we have, and it's hard to really put your finger on why we have, but we've been able to score runs early on the road, and with our pitching staff, like I mentioned before, they've been able to hold up and keep the other club from getting back in the games.
With your strong pitching, you'll have a good shot going down the stretch, too.
Well, you know, pitching's the name of the game, and we've got an awful lot of it here. Hopefully we can stay healthy and avoid some injuries, and we'll be right there.
All right, Art, good luck today.
Thanks a lot.
Benny Art Howe, the man who in the National League, of course, will get some consideration as the manager of the year.
The consideration for Art Howe might very well be whether the Astros win or lose in 1989. We'll get to the starting lineups and of all the pregame stats and stories, all coming up right after this.
By Buick and your Buick dealer, the Great American Road belongs to Buick. By Stroh's, fire brewed, family brewed for more than 200 years. And by Die Hard, America's most trusted replacement battery. Die Hard, with more power when you need it most. And now, here's today's Die Hard starting lineup.
For For the Houston Astros, Craig Biggio leading off, despite the fact he's a catcher, and he's been a very successful leadoff man. Rafael Ramirez at shortstop, and Terry Poole hitting third in left field. Glenn Davis in the cleanup spot at first, and Ken Caminiti at third base. Young Eric Anthony will be in right field. Craig Reynolds playing second base over Bill Doran, who's been struggling in quite a slump. Gerald Young will be in center field. And Mike Scott, the pitcher, the best the Astros have. Scott trying to become the first 18-game winner in the majors. He is 1-0 against the Giants, 13-8 lifetime, although he has only been so-so here at Candlestick Park. The measurements here at Candlestick, plus the wind, whatever, has contributed to the fact that Mike Scott, a very successful pitcher, is at best break even here. 4 wins, 4 losses, and his earned run average is more than 3.5. As you can see, 35 down the lines, 65 up the alleys, and that's a short power alley, 400 to straightaway center. The Astros, 2 ball clubs. Have been playing reasonably well at home. They're 6 games above 500, 7 above at home. But when you look at them, you realize there is a jarring difference, the way they play here and the way they play at the Astrodome. Case in point, Houston in the Dome is hitting 273. Here at Candlestick, 189. The division-leading San Francisco Giants leading by 2 games, and the best home team right now, on paper at least, in the major league.
Benny, the defense for the San Francisco Giants, and it's been one of the strengths of this ball club, its strength up the middle. Kevin Mitchell in left, Brett Butler in center, Pat Sheridan in right field. Matt Williams at third, Jose Uribe, Robbie Thompson at second, and Will Clark at first, Terry Kennedy behind the plate. You asked Roger Craig about why his ball club has been successful, why their pitching staff has the 3rd best earned run average in the National League, and he will tell you Uribe at short, Thompson at second, and Butler in center field. His defensive strength up the middle has been just superb.
If ever a team said home sweet home, it would be the Giants. They just were on a 14-game road trip and lost 9 out of 14, losing in Houston, Atlanta, and Los Angeles as well. And as soon as they come home, they got well last night. Their record at home, 35-15. Mike LaCosse, who pitched for the Astros for a couple of years, will now try to stop them dead in the water today. What about this ballpark as a pitcher?
This ballpark is a little bit different now than it used to be. It's 2 different ballparks. When they first came here, everything in center field was open, as you recall, looking right out onto San Francisco Bay. The winds would come in from left field. It's much nicer to play here during the daytime. This 12 o'clock start at Candlestick is really terrific. The weather is just beautiful here today. But it used to be all out in the open, and the right-handed hitters here at Candlestick used to be at a disadvantage. Willie Mays hit here, of course, for several years, or for many years for the Giants, and was robbed of, a whole bushel full of home runs in left field. They just hit up in that left field wind, and the ball would come straight down, and it used to be an advantage for the left-handed hitter, Willie McCovey, of course, in this ballpark, one of the great Giant names. But several years ago, they filled it in here, and it is now a complete oval. And it is not as bad as it used to be. However, the wind still will be a factor, especially later in the afternoon and at night.
For those of you who have never seen a telecast from Candlestick, those white discs on the right field wall are the great names in Giant history. Christy Mathewson and John McGraw, Bill Terry and Mel Ott, Carl Hubble, Willie Mays, Juan Marichal, and Willie McCovey, the greatest names in the Giant history book. Craig Biggio, followed by Rafael Ramirez and then Terry Poole. Biggio, despite being a catcher, is still young enough to run well enough to lead off, and he's found a home atop the heap. He's batting .386 as a leadoff hitter. That's his right. Biggio has an 8-game hitting streak, and since they moved him in the top slot, he's hit in 13 out of 16. Invariably, the Astros down through the years have had a winning record at home. Most of the time they've been a poor club on the road, but not so this year. In fact, earlier this year, the Astros won 10 straight on the road. 1 ball and 1 strike to Craig Biggio. Outfield playing him straight away. High fly ball into reasonable right field. Pat Sheridan is there. Art Howe piloting his ball club to within 2 games of the top, sitting there with Les Moss, his pitching coach.
He has done just a terrific job for the Houston Astros. And he gives a lot of credit to a couple of guys in that pitching staff that just kept him in every game when they've gone out there. Mike Scott, of course, the anchor of the staff for the Astros. And Jim DeShays, who has pitched extremely well for them. Starting pitching, one of the real strengths that the Astros have, and now that Rick Rhoden is back in healthy, it's going to really be a benefit having him down the stretch.
0-2 the count to Rafael Ramirez. He has a 5-game hitting streak. Mike Scott now seated in the dugout, so he's ready to go to work. Ramirez went to work last night. He had a 2-run home run to tie up the game in the 6th inning. One of the interesting aspects of this rivalry and this series is the starting pitcher for the Giants tomorrow. That's hit in the air to left field, but Kevin Mitchell would appear to have a bead on it. 2 down. Rick Rhoden will start for the Astros, and the Giants have announced their starting pitcher tomorrow against Houston, Bob Neppard, whom the Astros just released. The Giants pick him up, and to make room for Nepper, they released Goose Gossage. So Bob Nepper will go against his old team tomorrow.
Kind of unusual, won't it? Of course, Nepper played here before.
Here's Terry Poole hitting in the number 3 slot. He's hitting 21 out of 35, but not very much. Hitting right around 260. He's been a fixture with the Astros for quite some time, so that now he has the 2nd longest continuous service with the same club in the National League, second to Atlanta's Dale Murphy. One strike. Lacoste 4-10 against his former club. It's the worst career record against that team than against any other team in the league, which seems to answer a question I was going to ask you about pitching against your old ball club. You would think that as a student of the game, he would certainly know the flaws of many of his ex-teammates, and he'd be more successful.
Sometimes it just doesn't quite work that way, does it? Sometimes your old ex-teammates know how you work, too. Here you see Lacoste setting up with a split finger. He'll set up every pitch that way, and then if he makes a change, either to the fastball or the breaking ball, he'll do it in his glove. Much easier to do it than...
Base hit to left field.
Much easier to adjust in the glove than going from a regular grip on the ball and then adjusting to the split finger when you take it into the glove. It starts with the split finger, which is the most difficult grip to get on the ball. And it goes into the glove and either holds it for the breaking ball or the fastball.
And you can bet Matt Galante, coaching at third, will have his eyes riveted on Lacoste just to see if he can read him, as if somehow he might be able to pick up Lacoste moving that ball around in his glove. Here's Glenn Davis, who is the power plant. Davis, as he checks in with 24 home runs, 63 RBIs. He's the first Houston player ever to hit 20 or more home runs 5 straight years. And interesting as far as the breakdown is concerned, 14 of his home runs on the road and 10 in the Astrodome. 2-0 the count to Davis.
Davis has struck out 89 times this year. It's the most he's ever struck out in the big leagues. And you wonder if he is trying to do a little bit too much.
Oh, I'm sure.
He is the power plant for these guys. Exactly right. And he has to supply it. So he is thinking power.
He not only is the only Astro hitter with 20 or more home runs, he's the only Astro hitter to homer in double figures. Behind him, you have Biggio with 8 and Doran with fall off if you just pitch around Glenn Davis. 2-1.
Art Howe made an interesting point talking about Glenn Davis, that wanting, let's say, to make him a little bit more selective at the plate, take some more pitches. But many of his home runs, Art Howe was saying, come on pitches out of the strike zone. He is so big and so strong, he can get a pitch on the outside part of the plate, out of the strike zone, hit it out to left field. Much like the theory of Yogi Berra. Remember, he was a bad ball hitter, so you don't tell him not to swing at those pitches, when in fact he has the ability to hit that ball out of the ballpark.
Well, Davis can hit him out of anywhere. In last year, when he had 30 home runs, he hit as many at home as he did on the road. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 down, first inning, no score. A jewel of a day here in San Francisco. Brilliant blue sky, light breeze blowing from right to left. Terry Poole at first with 2 out. There he goes, and there goes the ball. A high drive into deep left field. Mitchell on the track to haul her in. No run to hit a man left. Into half an inning, no score. Offensing with Butler in center, Thompson at second, Clark at first, then Mitchell, Williams, and Sheridan, and Kennedy, Uribe, and LaCosse. And trying to stop them, Mike Scott, trying to be the Majors' first 18-game winner today, and he's won 11 of his last 13 decisions. He's had 2 4-game winning streaks. An 18th victory would equal his career high. Butler, who loves to bunt. 0-1 to count. Butler puts tremendous pressure on the infield, particularly the third baseman. He has 16 bunt singles this year. Last year, he led the league with 20. 0-1 to count to Butler. Giants beginning a 10-game homestand after that poor road trip. They won last night. When they're finished with the Astros, they then have 4 with the Reds and 3 with Los Angeles. 0-2 the count. Fouled off third, out of play. Just as tomorrow is so interesting with Bob Knepper, a former Giant, former Astro, released by the Astros, picked up by the Giants, and he will start against Houston. Interesting that in this pennant race, you'd have Mike Scott, whose entire career was turned around by the manager of the Giants, Roger Craig. And Roger, along with Mike Krukow, taking in the action. Ball 1, 1-2. Krukow, who is out for the year, is going to be doing a radio show from the dugout. And he has the personality, the intelligence to be a success up here. 1-2. Popped in the air. It will be Rafael Ramirez.
Here's the defense for the Astros in the outfield. Terry Poole, Gerald Young in center, and young Eric Anthony in right field. Ken Caminiti at third. Rafi Ramirez, who has been somewhat inconsistent this year, especially with his throwing. Craig Reynolds giving Bill Doran a day off at second. Glenn Davis at first, and Craig Biggio behind the plate.
Robbie Thompson, the second baseman, had some trouble on the road trip, and they're hoping that he will shape up now that he's at home. Of course, the Giants losing 9 of 14 on the trip, and Robbie has picked up a tough hombre to get well again, because he's hitting less than 100 in his career against Mike Scott. The bunt up along first base. Davis gets it. Foul ball. Foul ball. The ball went out of his glove, but they're going to send the hitter back. And Robbie Thompson will go walking back and try it again.
Thompson trying to bunt for the base hit. Very aggressively, Davis trying to get to the ball. Not very often you see it, trying to get the ball before it would go into foul territory. The ball was hit hard enough for him to get there and field it, and then simply tag Thompson going by, but the ball rolling foul. John McSherry, the first base umpire, right on top of it.
0-2 the count. By the way, our congratulations to Brenda and Robbie Thompson. Brenda delivered twins yesterday, twin sons, Logan and Tyler, at Stanford Hospital. They now have 6 children. Down goes Robbie. 2 down in the first inning.
The Giants are a club that leads the National League in striking out 688 times. They go up there hacking. They'll score some runs, but they have some people that strike out. Butler in leadoff position has struck out 51 times. Robbie Thompson 87 times. Will Clark's punched out 72 times, and Kevin Mitchell 75 times. So they are a good offensive club, but they will strike out. It's a good indication of a ball club that is very aggressive at the plate. Going up there, not necessarily just like contact, but really trying to drive the ball. That's why the old Pittsburgh Pirates were, the old lumber company. They went up there hacking.
Will Clark, one of the premier hitters in the league, fouling a pitch away. 0-1. Clark, the hero, hit a 2-run home run upstairs last night to break the 2-2 tie. And you can see for him to wear out the Astros is not news. 0-1. Ground ball, and look at the load they have on the right side as they load up, and Ramirez on the second base side of the bag throws him out, and the Giants are gone in order. No score in the ball game. The Astros and Giants. Giants leading Houston by 2 games in the standings. Ken Caminiti, the third baseman, and Eric Anthony and Craig Reynolds against right-hander Mike Lacoste, who just missed starting out in a hole on that long fly ball out of the bat of Glenn Davis. Caminiti, a switch hitter, much better numbers from the other side of the plate. However, his power, 6 home runs, 3 from each side. Caminiti from these parts, so in a sense he's kind of a local boy coming home. He's from Hanford, California.
Right down the road from Fresno, by the way. Throw that in for you.
2-0. High chopper over the mound. Uribe gets a nice hop. And that'll do it for Caminiti on a ground ball to short. 1 away.
Lacoste is a Valley boy, too. He's building himself a home down in the San Francisco Valley, San Joaquin Valley, excuse me, right outside of Visalia, I believe. Grew up in that area.
A lot of ball players come from the state of California, and quite a few surprisingly from the north. I think everyone realizes how many baseball players have come out of Southern California area, but quite a few up here. Here's Eric Anthony. The Astros are hoping that the future has arrived. He had 28 home runs at Columbus. He has 1 home run so far since calling up. He pays the price, however. He struck out a lot, 127 times at Columbus. 0-2.
He started with a bang with the Astros. Had a tough first night, but came back and hit a home run, hit a double. The ball right on the nose, showing good power. Led all minor leaguers last year with home runs. Certainly big enough.
He's from San Diego. Foul back. 6'2", 195-pounder. And he's only 21 years old. He won't be 22 until November, so he really is just starting out.
Well, you've heard all the talk starting in spring training through the season about how the Astros trying to get a hitter to hit behind Eric Davis. Glenn Davis, trying to find somebody with some pop to protect him in that cleanup spot in the Astro lineup. And it looked like Anthony might have been the answer, and then after a real hot start, he has cooled off.
And they've been playing without Kevin Bass, and Bass provides some shock. Bass has hit as many as 20 home runs for Houston. So Anthony's going to do a lot of that while he learns the league. And we have 2 down in the second inning.
Lacoste basically a 4-pitch pitcher, a couple of types of fastballs, a split-fingered pitch that will go down and away from the left-hand hitter, and there's a perfect example of what it looks like from the pitcher's mound. Starts out at the center of the plate and then just dies away. You throw a couple of fastballs, the split finger, which he will throw as a strikeout pitch 10-15% of the time, and the slider.
Here's here's Craig Reynolds, who has started at first, second, short, and third. He's also pitched and played left field. Otherwise, he hasn't done a thing all year. And he hits Lacoste very well. That's why he's playing second base over Bill Doran. Doran against Lacoste is hitting about 140 in his career, while Reynolds is hitting 357 in his career against Lacoste. So Craig is in there. Fouled away. 0-2. Final score, and that slows up Cleveland, but it revitalizes Boston. Now look at the home runs by Heath, Boggs, and Reed. Red Sox 10 and Cleveland 2. Remember, Cleveland began the day a game and a half behind Baltimore. Boston 2.5 back. No balls, 2 strikes. No score, top of the second inning. Lacoste will take a little time and talk to Terry Kennedy. Of course, the big news here in San Francisco, the fact that there will be a vote, and we will see whether the Giants indeed will be leaving Candlestick Park in a couple of years and have their new ballpark at the China Basin, where they tell me Will the Thrill Clark could hit home runs that go into the water. He would then be known as Will the Spill. So, but that's a couple of years down the road. 0-2 the count to Craig Reynolds. That's the mayor's line. Art Agnew. 1-2 the count.
Reynolds, a very useful utility man for the Astros. Of course, was a teammate of now his manager, Art Howe, from 77 to 83 when Art was playing for Houston.
There's a shot into right field, so Reynolds continues to wear out Mike Lacoste. It's amazing how a hitter can just feast on a certain pitcher. Was there any particular hitter in your mind who gave you a bad time?
Well, there are a lot of them. Through 20 years, I was certainly going to have a lot of them. And there's one of them in playing today on the ball field.
Really?
One of them right behind home plate. The catcher for the San Francisco Giants. Terry Kennedy, look at his numbers, hitting 225. He saw me walk out there today and his eyes lit up. He said, I've been in a slump. Said, you feel like throwing batting practice to me? I mean, he used to kill me.
Fouled away by Gerald Young, and the count 0-1. Gerald Young, as you see, no home runs. He had the most at-bats last year and failed to hit a home run. He has one in his career. In 1987, he hit a home run here against Dave Dravecky. And if he gets 3 at-bats today, it will have been 1,000 at-bats since his home run. Hit down the line, foul, out of play. But we mentioned Dave Dravecky, and that's even more interesting and more important.
Boy, it's a beautiful story, isn't it?
Dravecky undergoing a cancer operation on his arm, and last night pitched a gem for Phoenix. Threw 93 pitches and turned in a complete game to beat Tucson. And Dravecky is very close to coming back to the big leagues, and that's an inspiration for all of us. Pitch out, but no action. Reynolds holding at first.
The Astros are kind of club that, in contrast to the Giants, a running ball club, 118 stolen bases, tops in the National League. The Astros have really done it with pitching and speed, whereas the Giants have done it with pitching, defense, and, of course, the home run ball from Kevin Mitchell and Will Clark.
1-2, and there goes Reynolds on a fly ball to left center. Butler started back. That's that. So Mike Lacoste has allowed 2 hits but nothing else, and was scoreless in the second.
We switched.
First 18-game winner. He's an interesting character to study. You go way back in 1979 when he beat Vida Blue, traded from the Mets to the Astros for Danny Heap, who, by the way, hit a home run today for the Red Sox. Then acquired the split-finger fastball and did a remarkable turnabout thanks to the tutelage of Roger Craig, who was then the pitching coach at Detroit. In 1986, a career year, a no-hitter to clinch the division against the Giants, and yet came up a buck short as the Mets defeated the Astros in the league championship series. That is not just a piece of paper. That name Mike Scott is written on a large piece of sandpaper. Kevin Mitchell is up there, followed by Matt Williams and then Pat Sheridan. Mitchell trying to become the 18th player to hit 50 home runs. Hits one foul the other way. He hit 2 home runs on the 14-game road trip, 1 in Atlanta. And then the other night he hit a 3-run home run in the first inning against the Dodgers. So Mike Scott against Kevin Mitchell. 2 of the all-stars in the league going head-to-head. Seeing that fan hold up that piece of sandpaper. If you have not been reading the papers recently, there was a somewhat explosive quote. Now back 2-2. After Mike Scott had beaten the Dodgers, the normally quiet Oral Hershiser spoke out. And referring to Scott, he cheats up a storm. He's got sandpaper on the inside of his glove. Scott retorted, he ought to go climb a mountain. 2 balls, 2 strikes. High fly ball to right field. Going back is Eric Anthony in the corner. Backhands it. Fine play by Eric Anthony to take an extra base hit away from Kevin Mitchell. Big play.
One of the difficulties here at Candlestick Park, especially for a young player, especially for a player on the opposing team, the home field advantage obviously does not have, is the wind, which will circle around now in this ballpark and can do a lot of tricks with the ball. You see the flags in center field blowing toward left field, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's that direction everywhere on the field.
Take another look as that pitch is fouled off. Eric Anthony coming in the corner, backhanding the ball, and then bracing himself before the collision with the sign. That was a big play.
That's a good play. Yeah, not knowing the field, a young player down there in the corner, not knowing how much real estate he has to work with. Good play.
0-1 to Matt Williams. And it's going to cost him a strike, and he can't believe it. 0-2 the count.
It was not even an appeal play. John McSherry not making a move down at first. Charlie Williams, the umpire behind home plate, you can see him point right at the hitter with that left hand. That's just in preparation to call a strike.
Line drive down the left field line for a base hit. Going in the corner, Terry Poole in pursuit of it, and Matt Williams into second, holding with a double, and he is red hot. Williams in the recent series in Los Angeles was 6 for 12 with 2 doubles and 2 home runs. And now he picks up another extra base hit here today.
Standing around the batting cage today watching batting practice. A lot of times you don't realize how big these players are. He is 6'2", 205, and I'm telling you, he looks absolutely like a linebacker. He is huge. Tremendous power he has.
Here's Pat Sheridan. 0-1. Sheridan, who came to the Giants in the middle of June from Detroit in the deal that sent Tracy Jones away. I was just thinking that was rather startling last night after Matt Williams had a strike called on a check swing. Tony Gwynn was kicked out of the game in Los Angeles last night on a check swing. A hopper off the glove of Ramirez, and everybody's safe.
Well, Sheridan hit that ball right on the nose. Don't know how the official scorekeeper will score it. But Matt Williams doing a good job of base running, getting right in front of Ramirez and partially blocking the ball.
Era charged to Rafael Ramirez. If he handles the ball cleanly, he would have gotten Williams at third.
Now let's see if Williams stops here and gets in front of him. Yes, he does, just slightly. Well, I mean, that ball hit like a rocket by Sheridan.
24 errors for Rafael Ramirez, so he is not a particularly good shortstop anyway defensively. When he was getting all the errors in Atlanta, people understood because the Atlanta infield for years was really the toughest infield in the league. But with the Astrodome, he is still having his problems, and now a big error here. So first and third, one out, and remember the out was a dazzling catch by Eric Anthony. Ground ball to the right side. There's the feed for one. Back to first, double play. So Terry Kennedy hits into the double play, and the Giants come up empty, and Mike Scott walks away nodding to Ramirez.
Do you buy Mr. Goodwrench? Mr. Goodwrench knows it's not just a car, it's your freedom. By the divisions of General Motors, makers of fine cars and trucks. And by First Brands Corporation, makers of STP's Son of a Gun Protectant. Son of a gun, what a difference.
Mike Scott getting the double play when he needed it off the bat of Terry Kennedy, so we go to the third inning, no score. And Mike Scott will lead it off, followed by Craig Biggio and then Rafael Ramirez. Scott is a pretty good hitting pitcher. Oh, he doesn't have any average, but he has 7 runs batted in. And he has helped his own cause with 7 sacrifices. So Scott, Biggio, and Ramirez. If anybody gets on, Terry Poole. Third inning, no score. Certainly will feel right at home. They've been in more one-run games than any other team in the majors, 42 of them, and they've won more than any other team, 26 of them. High, wind-blown fly ball, and Pat Sheridan is there. One away in the third inning, and Craig Biggio will be coming up, but he's going to consume a little time to let Mike Scott get back to the dugout.
Talking about Mike Scott and about Mike Lacoste and what he throws. A couple of fastballs that he throws, and the breaking ball and the split finger. Only throws that split finger maybe 10-15% of the time because it hurts. He says it hurts his elbow. A lot of speculation about the wear and tear that pitch causes on a pitching staff. The Giants with 6 pitchers on the DL. Albeit Dravecky just about ready to come back. It doesn't look like Krukow will be back at all this year.
Biggio flied to right in the first inning, 0 for 1. There was a column written in the San Francisco paper this morning in defense of the split finger, or at least in the defense that the injuries that have happened to the Giants are not attributable to that pitch. 0-1. Little breaking ball missed. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Lacoste says it does hurt his elbow. I mean, there's a lot that would go into it. Thinking whether it is all the pitches that he has thrown before in his career, which is mainly a sinker slider pitcher, did that cause it, and now this only aggravates the situation? And there's so many ways to attack the argument of whether the pitch in fact does hurt the elbow.
A drive to left field. Kevin Mitchell is there. That's the second out. There are a couple of games being played today. We just told you the Cleveland-Boston final where the Red Sox won. Now you see the Yankees leading 4-3 in the bottom of the 8th. Ken Phelps pinch hit home run in the 8th inning. That's a big game. Toronto began 2 games behind Baltimore, and the Yankees 5. 2 out in the third. Rafael Ramirez flied to left field in the first inning. Strike, 0-1. Whatever the reason, the Giant pitching staff has been decimated, so that when you see Mike Lacoste on the mound, he is one of 12 pitchers to start a game for the Giants this year. The Yankees have used more than that. It's 13 of 14.
The Yankees have used 14 starting pitchers.
These are the current DL members. Amaker out with the knee. Downs, Krukow, Dravecky, Russell. Russell with the groin. They're hoping that he'll be back soon. 1-1 to count to Rafael Ramirez. And that's a flare into left center. That will drop for a base hit. So Ramirez dunks one to center, and that will bring up Terry Poole. That's the third hit allowed by Mike Lacoste. Terry Poole single to left field in the first inning.
Third hit by Lacoste, and every one of the base hits, a base hit in the first by Poole, a base hit in the second by Reynolds, here a base hit by Ramirez, all coming with 2 outs. All 2-out base hits.
Lacoste last year did not pitch after the 16th of July. He had a right elbow injury, and that required surgery. So he knows what it's like to have the year scrapped. You were really fortunate, weren't you?
Oh, I was very
remember
fortunate.
you ever having a really sore arm.
I had a sore shoulder at one time, 1982 in Cincinnati. I got sick in spring training, and I got very sick with the flu. Came out of spring training. The ball club started poorly, and I rushed myself back in.
Hit foul off third. Matt Williams in pursuit, fighting the wind and the glare, and the ball might have been catchable, but he just had too many troubles with the elements.
A lot of foul territory here in Candlestick Park. A lot of foul territory. Boy, you judge this in same kind of ballpark, or the dimensions at Wrigley Field or the dimensions at Fenway Park. There is just very little foul territory. Of course, here the amount of foul territory you have very advantageous to the pitcher and disadvantageous to the hitter.
1 ball, 1 strike. Hit in the air down the left field line. Kevin Mitchell in pursuit, crossing the foul line and making the catch in the visiting bullpen. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of 2.5 innings, no score. Authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. We're going to the bottom of the third. Scoreless tie. It'll be Jose Uribe, followed by Mike Lacoste, and then Brett Butler against right-hander Mike Scott. Giants have beaten the Astros 4 straight here at the Stick. The Astros won 4 out of 6 at the Dome. Uribe, a switch hitter, much better numbers from this side of the plate. His only home run came as a left-handed batter. 1-1.
Scott with a 17-5 record, as most he's ever won in the big leagues is 18. He's never won 20. Over the last 4 years, he's averaged about 250 innings pitched, 16+ wins per year.
The bunt in the air, foul, and back to get it is Biggio, and that's that. So Uribe tried to bring it with him and left it back in Biggio's mitt. 1 away.
Uribe trying to get something going here for the Giants. This 1 hit so far do the Giants have off of Mike Scott. Uribe getting a lot of work from Dusty Baker, the hitting coach for the Giants, before the game. He has been accused of having a little tired bat by his hitting coach. Uribe has played in 107 and 109 games that the Giants have played, and there's Dusty Baker on your right, and one of his pupils today, and they were working on a slow bat.
Another foul ball, and Biggio right to the stands, but he'll run out of room. And the count, 1 ball and 1 strike to Mike Lacoste. Big game for the Cubs, 1-1, bottom of the 3rd inning. The Cubs hanging tough on the heels of Montreal. They've won 2 straight and 7 out of 10, and they're only 1 game back.
A good race in that National League East, isn't it? Wow.
In fact, we're very fortunate now. We have a race in each division. Ground ball to third. Caminiti taking a little time, making Lacoste run, 2 down. But as this day began, you realize the story is long from being written. The Indians trailing Baltimore by 1. The A's trailing the Angels by a half a game. The Cubs trailing Montreal by 1. Houston trailing the Giants by 2. I mean, that's ideal.
A pennant race, and also the number of teams in the divisions that have a chance to win. I mean, in the American League East, you're talking about all the way down to the Yankees. Seemingly only Detroit out of that race. Anybody playing about 500 baseball ending up at 500 might have win that division.
Brett Butler a strike. He popped the shortstop, 0 for 1. Butler, like so many of the Giants, really struggling. Especially the top of the lineup. Butler and Thompson are the table setters, and they're having a lot of trouble getting on. It puts added burden on Clark and Mitchell, and they don't have anybody to drive in.
Because we had the Dodgers against these Giants last Tuesday night, and Butler was in a slump then. I saw him before the game. I said, "You still in a slump?" He says, "How is 10 for 60?"
A drive into the right field corner, hooking as it goes out of here. Home run for Butler. Line drive over the right field fence.
Butler, a dead fastball hitter. Talking about what he's trying to do when he comes out of the slump. Stay real still and keep the front side closed and make just one move to the ball. He is a dead fastball hitter, and he will look for fastball every time he goes to the plate. He got one there, gets his 4th home run of the year.
Fouled away by Robbie Thompson. For Mike Scott, the best pitcher that the Astros have, but he also gives up the most home runs. He's given up 15 home runs now. Not the most in the league, I don't mean that, but most on the Astros staff. 1-0 San Francisco, bottom of the 3rd inning. A 2-out home run by Butler. And here's Robbie Thompson, 1-1. Mike Scott was fortunate in the 2nd inning. Kevin Mitchell's ball in the corner, and Eric Anthony made a fine catch, and then Matt Williams doubled into the left field corner. Fly ball into shallow right. Wynn's playing with it. It's gonna drop. Reynolds recovers, gets it into Ramirez, who now throws to Davis. Davis fakes twice in a foot race, dives, and got him on about the 5-yard line.
Wow.
There's a great tackle, not a tag, by Glenn Davis, and it's 1-0 San Francisco. Top fly, Reynolds recovers and quickly and smartly gets it to Ramirez, and watch Glenn Davis begging for the ball. He fakes twice, but neither time would Thompson go for the fake, and Davis finally has to bring him down with a head-first diving tackle.
Great play on Reynolds' part to get the ball back into Ramirez. Ramirez not hustling toward the runner. He was a long ways away from the runner, and should run that runner all the way back as close as he can to first base before he gives Davis the ball.
Well, Davis was really pleading for it, but now he has the bat, and it is 1-0 Giants in the 4th inning. The Astros are struggling, and struggling here at Candlestick. They've lost all 4 games. In fact, counting the 3 innings today, they've scored 1 earned run in 33 innings at Candlestick Park. Davis fly deep to left in the 1st inning, almost hit it out. And the count 0-2. Couple of notes on the Astros. You figured they were going to have trouble contending because of lack of hitting. Last year they were 8th in the league in runs, but they were about 3rd last weekend. And you know they have 9 players with at least 20 RBIs. The Cubs, the only other National League team with 9 20 RBI men. So it's not an explosive attack. It's not a headline attack, but they'll nibble away like being eaten to death by an angry moth.
That's exactly what Art Howe was talking about, that they scratch and they kick and they claw and they make a run here and they force a run there and kick one across there, and they pitching just strong enough to hold up and make it work for them.
And unless you're paying particular attention, it might surprise you to know that the Cardinals are not leading the National League in stolen bases. It's the Houston Astros, and that's really news in the National League. Now back. You know, the last National League team besides the Cardinals to lead the league in steals was Montreal in 1981. And yet this club, the 1989 Houston Astros, lead the National League in stolen bases. So they can beat you. That's why they're 2nd place and why they're so close. Giants 1, Astros nothing, top of the 4th. Davis with a count of 0-2. Mike Lacoste trying to win his 6th. He's 5-7. He lost to the Astros earlier this year, and he has not pitched well against them. 4-10 lifetime. And he's taken a lot of time, and Davis backing out again.
A little uncertainty between Kennedy and Lacoste, what they want to throw here with the count, no balls and 2 strikes. Kennedy behind the plate maybe having a different idea of how they want to try and get Davis out. You got to be very careful there.
0-2. Pitch.
Lacoste definitely thinks he has Davis struck out here. Charlie Williams behind home plate threw exactly the pitch that he wanted to throw, a fastball down and away that he brought back to the corner of the plate, he thought. Williams thinking either low or outside.
1-2 the count to Glenn Davis. Foul the other way. When Lacoste lost to the Astros at the end of July, he lost to Mike Scott in that game 6-2. He had no decision in June in a game the Giants lost. That was a 7-5 outcome, but he wasn't responsible for it. Lacoste pitched for the Astros in 1982, 83, and in 84. Davis just keeps hacking away and fouling them off.
Davis just missed a home run the first time up facing Lacoste. Davis 30 home runs last year. 23 of them against right-handers. I'll tell you that he's a fastball hitter. If I'm looking at that kind of stat, it'll be a fastball hitter. If you're a right-hand hitter hitting home runs against a right-hand pitcher, you're hitting that fastball. 13 home runs against right-handers this year, the 24 that he has.
Ground ball to the hole. Up with it nicely is Matt Williams to throw him out. Good play by the Giant third baseman.
Good play by Williams at third. Davis way out in front of the off-speed pitch, rolling it over, not hitting it hard, but Williams moving directly to his left. You don't have to be real fast to be a third baseman, but you have to have quick reflexes.
Here's Ken Caminiti, the switch hitter, who grounded to short his only trip back in the 2nd inning. In there, 0-1. Strike the count. Caminiti, who lives in nearby San Jose. He went to San Jose State. 84, he was with the U.S. Olympic team, but he didn't make the final cut. 2-1. The count to Ken Caminiti.
Art Howe raving about his defense, the way he has played for the Astros. He made a great play last night. Astros end up losing when Will Clark hit one out of here, but it was a play by Caminiti that saved a run early in the ball game and kept the game close.
2 balls, 1 strike. Ball 3. So 3-1 to Caminiti. 1 out in the 4th inning. 1-0 Giants on the home run by Butler. That's the way to do it. Just keep throwing strikes. Not this time as he walks Caminiti. Let's get an update. We'll go to New York and to Gail Gardner.
Thank you, Vin. In Toronto, a big play by the Yanks. Mel Hall helped keep them on top. Dave Righetti in relief. Kelly Gruber with the fly ball to left field. Mel Hall makes the catch. Tony Fernandez tagging up, comes in. Hall's thrown plenty of time to get him. The Yanks have added a run in the 9th. They lead the Jays 5-3.
All right, Gail, the Yankees trying to make a move on Baltimore. Meanwhile, the Giants trying to open it up a notch against the Astros. And that's fouled back by Eric Anthony in the count 0-1. So the play by Matt Williams on the ball off the bat of Glenn Davis assumes greater proportions. It's followed by a walk. Instead of 2 on and nobody out, 1 on, 1 out, and it's still 1-0 Giants. Tomorrow, the finale of this 3-game series. Rick Rhoden will go for Houston, and a surprise, Bob Nepper will go for San Francisco. That's going to be hit into right center field for the base hit. Caminiti looks and stops at second. Caminiti does not run particularly well, and when he looked at Matt Galante, Galante did not give him a stop sign. He didn't give him any sign. He just stared at him, and Caminiti knew that's as far as he could go. So Anthony, a fly ball single, and that play by Williams gets bigger and bigger now. And the batter is Craig Reynolds. So for the Astros, it would appear as if they certainly have the right man up there at the right time. Reynolds came into this game with a .357 career batting average against Lacoste and singled to right field in the second inning. The infield will be back in double play depth. Reynolds in his career is not a home run hitter by any means, but he's had 3 lifetime home runs against Lacoste. Almost threw that away to the backstop. That was a pretty good save by Terry Kennedy. That ball just took off on him.
Lacoste is really a ground ball pitcher. Gets out in front of this with the left side of his body, and there's no place for his right arm to go but up and away. It's a couple of times that he has looked as if there's something wrong with his elbow, or else he feels a twinge in his elbow. Remember, he's had elbow surgery. And when your body is not quite on balance, it'll go to the weakest spot and you'll feel it.
Fouled away off third. Williams over to take a look, but that's all. It's well back into the crowd. Giants are drawing a little bit better than 24,000 a game. So they've played to 1,000,001 thus far. The Astros are only averaging 22,000, and they played to 1,000,002. So the two teams battling it out in the West are not particularly solid draws at home. 1-1 to Reynolds. Slowly to Uribe. They get one, and not in time. Rounding third is Caminiti, and he just got back on the throw from Clark to Williams. So a 6-4 force play. 2 out.
The Astros trying to steal a run here. The ball not hit very hard by Reynolds. They get the first out at second base. And very alertly Clark going to third base. And I'm telling you, if Caminiti, let's say that base runner, Caminiti, a fast runner, let's say it were Gerald Young, that would have been a run. When that runner breaks from second base, gets a good jump on a slow hit ball, and the defense goes for the double play, a guy that can really move it from second base can make it home before they can get him.
Gerald Young hits one foul off third and out of play, and the count 0-1. Of course, with Gerald Young or anybody who runs better than Caminiti, and most of them do, he probably would have taken third on the pop fly single to right field by Eric Anthony. So the lack of speed by Caminiti has hurt the Astros here. What's the old story about speed never has a slump?
Ooh, it can get you out of slumps very quickly, too, individually and team-wise.
0-1 to speedster Gerald Young. Reynolds at first, Caminiti at third. 2 out. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Young, somewhat of disappointment, hitting .229 coming in today. Guy with great speed, 65 stolen bases last year. No bunt base hits. Uppercut in his swing. It's one of the things the Astros have tried to get him to do is get down on the ball and put the ball in play more, keep it out of the air.
He slices one down the left field line. Mitchell picks it off on the dead run, and the inning is over. And the first play by Matt Williams on Davis' ground ball turned the whole inning around. London's Wembley Stadium, NFL football. The Philadelphia Eagles battling the Cleveland Browns live in the American Bowl, 89. American football from jolly old England and NBC Sports. In the 4th inning, Will Clark, Kevin Mitchell, and Matt Williams. So the heart of the Giant lineup coming up against Mike Scott. Clark grounded to short in the 1st inning. They load up again, and he takes a strike. Ramirez is on the other side of the bag. So the shift that was once upon a time called a Ted Williams shift 40-some-odd years ago, now they apply it to Will Clark. Check swing foul right into the Astro dugout in the count 0-2. Of course, whenever you read about the Ted Williams shift, he was such a magnificent hitter that instead of going the other way, Williams still hit 400 and tore up that shift. Clark goes the other way, and I guess if you would compare the hitters, and it's early in Will Clark's career, but Will go to left field if that's the way you want to pitch him. He'll take it. Roger Craig was quoted the other day to show you just the growth, the stature of Will Clark now. Craig said, when I first saw him, I had to keep my mouth quiet about comparing him to Stan Musial. I didn't want to do that. But he said, now I don't have to do that anymore.
Well, now with the numbers that he's putting on the board, he's been one of the bright, shining young stars in the National League for the last 2 or 3 years. The shift that the Astros put on, if you recall, the Dodgers really tried to pitch him away and play him away, and he would go to left field. With his shift, you would think that they're going to try and pitch him inside, and that's exactly what they're trying to do.
But Clark chasing either the splitter or a big curveball. The bottom dropped out of it, and you can see he went down after it.
The splitter will look like a fastball until it gets to home plate and then just really react like a spitball. The bottom will simply drop out of it. Here you can see it. Just barely makes it past the home plate, diving out of the strike zone. It looks like it's going to be in the strike zone. When Clark committed to that ball and he was going to swing, the ball would look like it was going to be in the strike zone. And that's what's so deceptive about it. You have, certainly with 2 strikes, you have to protect against it, and then it just falls out of the strike zone.
Mitchell fouling it away, 0-1.
That's why so many hitters, pitchers are talking about, well, I'm only using the splitter now in strikeout situations, because it makes the hitter commit to swinging with 2 strikes at a certain pitch. A pitch looks like it's going to be in the strike zone. You got to remember the old adage, you got to protect the plate. Well, you begin your swing and to protect the plate and start your swing, and all of a sudden the ball just falls out of the strike zone.
It's sliced, and that's going to drop in right center field for a base hit. Gerald Young over with Anthony, and Eric Anthony comes up throwing, so Mitchell will hold with a fly ball single. We have a minute. We'll bring you up to date on other scores. And the Yankees have held on to defeat Toronto 4-3. So the Red Sox beat Cleveland, and the Yankees beat Toronto.
I suppose the Dallas green is safe for another day. You see in the New York papers that he and George Steinbrenner are going around and round.
Meanwhile, Pittsburgh in the 4th inning leading the Cubs 2-1. Yeah, that's quite a thing going on. And that zinger Dallas Green said, well, I really appreciate the experience of manager George Steinbrenner.
Those of us who live in the New York area and follow New York baseball are not totally surprised at the situation.
No. 4-1, 1-0. Williams double to left in the 2nd inning. Matt checking with Bill Fahey, as is the runner Kevin Mitchell. Giants 1, Astros nothing. A home run by Brett Butler to give San Francisco the lead. Mitchell's gone. Foul back. Double check just to make it accurate. The Yankees have still won, but we had an incorrect score a moment ago. It was 5-4, the Yankee victory over Toronto. So Toronto, for the moment, 2.5 back, and for the moment, the Yankees are 4.5 back.
A couple of veterans right there, Reynolds and Scott, tagging it over. Unusual. Kevin Mitchell, 2 for 4 in stolen bases. Roger Craig with his offense a little bit on the downside, trying to make something happen, but on the hit and run play. Reynolds came in to talk to Scott and said, listen, you got to keep your eye on him a little bit over there at first base. Mitchell is not known certainly as a base stealer. This ball club, the San Francisco Giants, have only stolen 57 bases. Remember, the tops of the National League, 118, and that's the Houston Astros.
1-1 the count to Matt Williams. Mitchell not going. A bunt is fouled, and the count 1-2, and that took a bite out of Biggio. To conclude a thought, we were talking about Cleveland, Toronto, and Boston, and the Yankees in pursuit of Baltimore. Baltimore is at home tonight. They host Texas, and that will be Nolan Ryan trying to win his 13th against Milwaukee.
I don't know what the Giants are trying to do here. If in fact the bunt play coming from Roger Craig on the bench or not, I don't know. Kind of unusual. I mean, they're a slug 'em team, and they're not a bunt team. They're not really a hit and run team.
1-2. And of course, Williams has really been swinging an explosive bat, 6 for 12 in the recent series. Now he had several doubles and a couple of home runs against the Dodgers, and doubled first time at bat today. Second goes Mitchell. I could hear a clunk all the way up here in the press box. And maybe Biggio just unable to even touch that ball. It sounded like it hit a shin guard. Take a look.
Well, I don't think there was any leather on it whatsoever. Went underneath the glove. Art, I was talking about Greg Biggio. He says just does a terrific job at keeping the ball in front of him. He has great lateral movement. One of the things the catcher's got to do with a pitch that's in the dirt like that is keep those shoulders right at the pitcher, so if the ball hits you in the body, it'll come right back into the playing field. But that ball right underneath his glove and off the shin guard.
2 balls and 2 strikes following the wild pitch. Foul back. Mike Scott has 2 strikeouts thus far. Robbie Thompson in the first inning and Will Clark here in the 4th. Scott has had a high of 14 in his career. He's done that twice. And he's had a high this year of 11 in a game against the Dodgers. So he is not striking out people as of this moment anyway. We're in the 4th. 1-0 Giants. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Drive into center. Going back on the ball is Gerald Young. The shades are down. He makes a diving catch. Mitchell goes back to tag. The relay to Reynolds. Reynolds to Caminiti, not in time. And Mitchell at third. What a dazzling catch by Gerald Young in center field.
Boy, just a super play by Young. When Williams hit the ball, it looked like it was going to be out to right center. Maybe the wind knocked it down out there, but Young never gave up on the ball. Mitchell came off from second base, thinking that Young would never catch up to it. Anthony getting over there telling him where to throw, go to third base, not go to home. It's funny, if Mitchell had been at the bag, conceivably, he may have been able to score in that ball.
Reynolds making that one hopper, and of course Caminiti was backed up by Scott. And that could easily have gotten away. Big play by Gerald Young. So here is Pat Sheridan with 2 out. Now, when you have the kind of stuff that Mike Scott has, and you have already seen a wild pitch, we should check. He has had 4 wild pitches. So with a runner at third, there's a great deal of pressure on Craig Biggio to smother any of those splitters in the dirt. 2 balls, no strike.
The hitter, a lot of times, if he looks at the defense, the way they're playing him, here you see Gerald Young over on the left field side in center field. If I'm a hitter and I look at that and I say, well, you get a lot of hard stuff away. You're not going to give me anything soft, the inside part of the plate to pull.
Well, back 2-1. The Astros have had 2 fine outfielding plays. Eric Anthony on a ball hit by Mitchell in the second inning. And now a catch by Gerald Young that would have done Willie Mays proud.
In the house that Willie Mays played and made here.
2-1.
Number 24. Say hey.
He wouldn't bite. That splitter stayed below the strike zone. So he is 3-1 to Sheridan. And the left-hand hitting Terry Kennedy on deck. 1-0 Giants in the 4th on a home run by Brett Butler. hit, and it's 2-0 San Francisco.
Scott trying to keep the ball hard away from Sheridan. Got it just a little bit too much on the plate. The defense playing in that play, but he just hit it right on the nose. Very difficult to defense a line drive. Good piece of hitting by Sheridan.
It could have been a lot worse for Mike Scott, except for that great catch by Gerald Young. So it is 2-0 Giants. And Terry Kennedy coming up. Sheridan had been in a terrible slump like so many other members of the Giants. 2 for 24 before that base hit and run batted in. And the big thing, he wasn't making any contact. Coming into this game, he had struck out 8 of his last 16 at-bats. But now he drives in a big run. Terry Kennedy grounded into a double play in the second inning. He's 0 for 1. That bailed Scott out of a tough spot in the second inning. So the Giants 2 runs, 5 hits. The Astros no runs, 4 hits. Giants trying to make it 5 straight and home against the Astros, who have only been able to score 1 run in 34 innings this year at Candlestick. With only 4 home runs. And of course, when you see him walk up to the plate, the first thing you think of, well, here's a big catcher who can hit one out of state. But he has changed as a hitter over the years. San Diego, in his early days, he hit as many as 21 home runs. But it has come down since then, although 2 years ago, he had 18 in Baltimore. Hammered down the right field line and in the corner. Sheridan is halfway to third. Anthony still not up with the ball. Sheridan will score on a double by Kennedy. 3-0 San Francisco.
When Terry Kennedy was at his best, it was with the San Diego Padres through 81 to 86, and he was not really known as a power hitter. He had some home runs. He was known as a 2-base hitter. You see the ball rifled down in the corner, just gets by Anthony. Kennedy does not run that well, ends up all the way to second base. Terry Kennedy was known as a 2-base hitter. They're going to walk Jose Uribe intentionally. In 1982, Kennedy had 42 doubles, a line drive type hitter. A lot of 2-base hits he would get.
You know, when you see this kind of an inning, 2 singles, a double, a great catch in center field, you wonder, well, if Mike Scott can cheat, where's the sandpaper? How come he's getting all this trouble?
Well, Les Moss went out there to talk to him just before Kennedy came up to the plate, and when he was walking away, Mike Scott put his arm up over the top of his head as if he was like trying to stretch his shoulder out a little bit. You know, we're into the 5th inning here, bottom of the 4th inning. If you're not stretched out and loose by now, you're not going to be loose. Scott, 160 innings coming into today's game. He averages over 7 innings per start. He gets his ball club on an average into the 8th inning. And he may have a little stiffness in the shoulder.
3-0 San Francisco. A half swing for a strike to Mike LaCause. Mike Scott has allowed more than 3 earned runs in only 3 starts the entire season. And he's allowed 3 runs so far, and we're only in the bottom of the 4th, so it has not been his day at all. 0-1. No balls and 2 strikes. So in the inning, Clark struck out. Mitchell singled to right and took second on a wild pitch. Matt Williams hit one, and Gerald Young made a truly remarkable catch. Mitchell tagged and took third. Sheridan single picked him up. Kennedy's double cashed in Sheridan. 1-2 the count.
Well, he looked like he just shoveled that ball to home plate. In other words, was a split finger or what, I don't know.
He's due to bat first in the 5th inning, and there's no one throwing in the Houston bullpen. You would think if he's hurting, they'd be ready and lift him. Half swing. They're going to look. Swing, says John McSherry, and that's the inning. However, it was some inning, and it is 3-0 Giants. It would have been more. Say hey, Willie. You'll live forever whenever we see center fielders make a catch.
Game of the Week is brought to you by your Toyota dealer. Whatever car or truck you choose, you'll love the quality. Who could ask for anything more? By Miller Lite. When it's Miller Lite, less filling tastes great. And by the Upjohn Company. If you're concerned about hair loss, see your doctor.
We're going to the 5th inning at Candlestick with the Giants leading the Astros 3-0. Mike Scott, due to lead off, will come up and take his turn. And it'll be Craig Biggio and Rafael Ramirez. Scott flied to right field in the 3rd inning. He's 0 for 1. So I assume he feels strong enough and well enough to continue pitching.
Well, it looked to me like it was a little stiff shoulder, Vinny, like making some of the actions that a pitcher would make. And I know a little bit about that, about stiff shoulder on the mound. There's a difference between stiffness and soreness. You've got to have a good rapport and a good relationship between yourself and the manager. Your manager has to be able to trust you, and whether, in fact, and I'm speculating here, whether, in fact, there's any stiffness whatsoever. But if there was, Art Howe would have asked him and said, how do you feel? He may have said, I feel fine, I'm stiff. As long as it doesn't hurt and there's no pain, fine. Get your big gun and your pitching staff, go get him. If it does hurt, if you feel discomfort, you've got to tell your manager that. You don't want to fool around with a pennant race and you come out of the game. But nothing ever happened in the Astro bullpen. So evidently he's okay.
3 balls, no strikes, and he walked him, and that would run Roger Craig up a wall, leading 3-0 to walk not only the leadoff hitter but the opposing pitcher.
That's a classic. That's a classic. Boy, I'm not going to walk this guy.
Roger is still in shock from the other night when the game, they walked 8 in one game. They walked 8 and hit a batter, and that was a night that Roger, among other things, made a personnel change in his pitching staff.
There are times the pitcher on the mound, and Wakasu has had terrific control so far during the game. Said, well, I got a 3-run lead here, and pitcher coming up, not a good hitting pitcher. I can't walk him. 4 pitches.
First thing you do is walk it.
And you start darting the ball and aiming it and goosing it up to home plate.
That's a strike to Biggio, who flied to right and flied to left. So Biggio in the leadoff spot and doing very well. He has his average up to 284. Will Clark will not hold Mike Scott. He's directly behind the bag. 1 ball and 1 strike. Lacoste, and perhaps it's because he had been in and out of the bullpen, but they always watch him very carefully, because when that needle hits empty, it hits in a hurry. His last time out, he got into the 7th inning, tied 2-2, and all of a sudden 5 straight batters reached base, and he was gone. Popped in the air off first. Clark angling back, fighting the glare, makes the play. Boy, was that a good play. In fact, anytime you catch a pop fly up here, it's a good play.
Not only the wind, but the sun here at Candlestick can really be a problem. Now, Will Clark is super first baseman. Just an outstanding athlete. Just does everything in the world, offensively and defensively, that you could ask. And a good play. A lot of territory here, as we talked about before. You go to another ballpark, you take that same pop up to Chicago, you take it to Boston, that's well back in the seats. It's one of the things that many people that have ever played for the Giants have groused about, is that there is so much foul territory, it just takes away from your batting average.
1 ball and no strikes to Rafael Ramirez. Ramirez knows all about a lot of foul ground, because when he first played for the Atlanta Braves, there was more foul ground in Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium, I think, than any other ballpark I've ever seen. Ground ball to third. Williams down to Thompson. Back to Clark. Double play. So the Astros have scored 1 earned run in 35 innings at Candlestick.
tells me what a beautiful car my Toyota Corolla is. True. But I tell them I got my 89 Corolla.
Sports World with flair. Jorge Paez, boxing's most colorful character, puts his IBF featherweight championship on the line. He battles rugged spoiler Steve Cruz live in a scheduled 12-rounder. And pro football's world-class speed burners go head-to-head to determine the Subaru NFL's fastest man. That's tomorrow on NBC Sports World. A meeting at the mound, and I think what Tom was talking about a few moments ago about Mike Scott is now bearing fruit. Scotty perhaps unable to loosen up, and we'll see now if Art Howe will bring in a new pitcher who will then be allowed to make as many warm-up tosses as possible, or perhaps he's just alerting them to the fact that we're watching, see if there's any bullpen activity back up.
Manager can make only 2 trips to the mound unless it's a medical trip. When he goes out there, he informs the umpire, I'm just going out to talk to my pitcher to see how he feels, and that's really all you can talk about. You can't talk about strategy or anything else. You can go out and ask your pitchers, how do you feel?
Brett Butler, who hit the home run in the 3rd inning to get the Giants off on the right foot, takes ball 1. No one throwing in the Astro bullpen yet. Well, Scott continues, and in a sense the Giants could easily have had a couple of more runs, and they're leading 3-0 now. You go back in the 2nd inning, Mitchell hit a ball in the corner, great catch by Anthony, and that was followed by Williams' double, and the Giants failed to score. And in the 4th inning, Gerald Young made that great catch on Williams, so they might have scored more. 2-1.
Giants kidding Brett Butler around the batting cage about he's been in a slump, 10 for 60, and comes back to the dugout grousing and not hitting the ball.
On the track, it's over his head, and Butler is on his way to a stand-up double. And Mike Scott is in some more trouble. He has now given up 3 doubles and a home run in 4 innings plus.
Brett Butler, a home run already. He says he sits on that dead red fastball every time, and what he's been doing lately is taking the fastball, thinking about so many things, thinking about his hand movement, his hip movement, where his feet are, where his front leg is. And he said, I just got to look at the fastball, be quiet, make one move to the ball, and you can see Les Mox, the pitching coach there, to get him going in the bullpen.
Robbie Thompson followed by Will Clark. The Astros pull up the corners, looking bunt, and they get the bunt. Davis, so he'll move him along. Glenn Davis coming towards the bunt, but Scott got it. So the sacrifice goes 1-4. Butler taking 3rd, and now the Pacific Coast Sock Exchange. Clark and Mitchell coming up.
Coming out of the Astro dugout, and he's pointing to Charlie Williams, and I think we're going to have a medical change here, in a sense. Art saying, I'm not very happy with what my pitcher is like, and if in fact he may be hurt. John McSherry coming over from first base to get in on this. If in fact it's a medical change, in the sense that Mike Scott is pitching and is in jeopardy of hurting himself, then the pitcher in the bullpen can come in and take as much time as he would like. There's no force. Anderson warming up in the bullpen for the Astros. The John McSherry, the crew chief, and there's the point, and that is a trip. He looks at Roger Craig and pointing at 1, meaning that is a trip that he has made. Scott being able to convince Art Howe that he's healthy enough to stay in the game.
He has 7 complete games. That's 1 short of his career best. He had 8 in '87 and in '88. And like all good pitchers, they hate to come out.
Well, there's a fine line between being brave and being stupid.
Oh, sure.
And that's really just being honest with yourself and your manager. You put yourself in jeopardy of hurting your arm. There's 2 months left in this pennant race. A lot of pitching for Mike Scott to do with his ball club. He knows best He's a veteran. He knows what he can do, but you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you could hurt yourself. In the long run, you hurt your ball club.
Here's Will Clark, and he bangs it in the gap in left center. The run is in. Clark into second base, and he will hold with a double. So that's 4 doubles and a home run, plus 2 circus catches in the outfield. He is not great Scott today.
Well, Brett Butler hit the ball right on the nose. There's a fastball down and away. Not much quick action on it. Remember how the defense for the Astros playing Will Clark to pull. He hits that ball right up to left center. They're going to walk Kevin Mitchell.
Again, now that it is 4-0 Giants, that is only the 4th time this year in all of his starts, and this is the 23rd start for Mike Scott. Only the 4th time in 23 starts where he's allowed more than 3 earned runs. So he is very much off his feed. The Giants taking advantage of it. The Giants 4 runs, 8 hits, 4 doubles, and a home run.
You know, it's very much off, too, Vinny, when you look at the number of innings pitched, 161 innings pitched coming in, 122 hits. When you add his non-intentional base on balls, he has 40 base on balls, 7 of them intentional. So he's really only had 33 base on balls. When you add that to the base hits, that's 155 walks and hits that he has given up. That's under the number of innings pitched. I mean, when you find a pitcher, when you add their hits and base on balls together, and it's lower than their innings pitched, you're talking about somebody who's having just a super year. And here the Giants already in 5 innings, 8 base hits off of Scott, and hitting the ball very hard. I mean, not a lot of cheapies at all.
Well, Larry Anderson certainly is ready, and here comes Art Howe, and that will be that for Mike Scott. Scott obviously not himself, and the Giant hitters punching holes in his record. He came in here trying to be the first 18-game winner in the major leagues. But remember, he is a break-even pitcher at Candlestick. 4-4 here, and an earned run average of a little more than 3.5. So Scott is gone, and Anderson coming in, and we'll be back. And here's a look at this week's American and break is brought to you by Rolaids, and here's a look at this week's American and National League leaders in the standings for the Rolaids Relief Man Awards. National League, Davis and Franco, and in the American League, Jones and Plesac. And we'll be tracking total points awarded on the basis of wins and losses, saves, and blown saves. Here's an interesting point of discussion here in the 5th inning. When Will Clark doubles to drive in the run, Art Howe opts to have Kevin Mitchell walked intentionally and then brings in Larry Anderson. So I say to you, if you are Larry Anderson, would you rather not have come in from the bullpen, made the intentional walk yourself to give you 4 pitches on the mound under game play, plus 8 warm-ups, so that's 12 additional pitches? Or would you have Mike Scott make an intentional walk and walk off the stage?
Well, that's the way most managers like to do it. They don't want the guy coming, the relief pitcher coming out of the bullpen after he's gotten himself ready in the bullpen and then lobbing 4 intentional pitches outside. They want him to come right in and get down to business. Not have to take care of paperwork, so to speak, by putting Mitchell on first base. Come right in and go after him. More of a mental preparation than anything else. Setting the table and get it all set for him. Now here it is. Go get him.
Matt Williams has doubled and was robbed of a hit on an electrifying play by Gerald Young, and he pops it up in foul ground. Glenn Davis is right there. That's the 2nd out in the inning. So Matt Williams fouls out, and Pat Sheridan will be coming up. Sheridan reached on the error by Ramirez and then singled in a run in the 4th. For the Astros, no doubt slightly demoralized right now. They come in here having beaten the Giants in Houston. They lose last night after tying up the game on a home run from a little-known precinct, Rafael Ramirez. Now they come back today with their ace, and he's gone, and they're down 4-0 in a ballpark where they can't score. Remember, the Astros have 1 earned run in 35 innings at Candlestick. So you got to figure they're hurting.
There's 8 more games between the Astros and the Giants, and 5 of them right here at Candlestick.
0-1 to count. Fouled away. The Astros have not been playing good ball since the All-Star break. The Astros are 2 games above 500, 12-10 since the break, and in danger of dropping to just 1 game above 500 since the break.
They have been a great road team, though. 29-23. That's the fewest losses on the road, along with the Oakland A's, of anybody in the big leagues.
They perhaps will hope to get well if indeed they lose again today. They have 4 in San Diego to finish up the road trip. And against San Diego, the Astros have won 6 out of 10. 2-2 the count. Pat Sheridan the batter. Giants at first and second with Clark and Mitchell out there, and the Giants leading 4-0. Chopper to third. Backing up is Caminiti, and as soon as he backed up, he lost the play. As soon as an infielder backs up to let the ball play him, he's in trouble. And Caminiti unable to handle it. Caught in between hops.
Playing this ball defensively, Caminiti, there was no place to go the way that Sheridan runs. There was no way he would have gotten him at first base. You know, it could have been a defensive play to the standpoint of, I'll go back on the ball and try and keep it in front of me, because if I go in and the ball goes underneath my glove, Will Clark is going to score easily.
Jerry Kennedy hit into a double play and double to right to drive in a run. The Giants now, everybody but Uribe and LaCause with at least 1 hit, and Butler has 2. Larry Anderson on the mound, picking up the pieces for Mike Scott. Anderson has done very well as a setup man. He's allowed just 7 earned runs all year. Opposing hitters are batting just 185 against him. San Francisco in the 5th. 2-1.
Talk about numbers that will get your attention. Look at Anderson. You said 7 earned runs, an earned run average of .98. that would get your attention. 64 innings pitched, just 42 hits. No home runs has he given up.
And Kennedy showing some discipline up there, refusing to chase that sinker. And the count 3-1 with Uribe on deck. 2 down. The Giants scored once in the 3rd, twice in the 4th, and once here in the 5th. And it is a commanding lead, 4-0, especially the way the Astros have hit here in Candlestick. That's a strike. Now the runners will be going. Clark, Mitchell, Sheridan, a full count, 2 down. Anderson pitching from a stretch. There they go. And it's ball 4. That run is charged to Mike Scott. Mitchell at 3rd also belongs to Scott. And the Giants lead 5-0. And Uribe trying to really break it open now. Fouled out and was walked intentionally. On the scoreboard, they keep flashing one word: more. Strike.
I wonder if they were flashing that the other day when the Astros were in Cincinnati when they had the horrible inning against them. 16 base hit, 14 runs.
0-1 to count. Of course, I was there the night that in Ebbets Field when the Dodgers scored 15 in the first inning against the Cincinnati Reds, so there was a little bit of poetic justice that the Reds would come back and have such a big game. That's a strike. 1-2. Jose Uribe battling Larry Anderson with the bases loaded, 2 out. 5-0 Giants. Kennedy at first, Sheridan at second, and Mitchell at third. Uribe, the 8th man to come to the plate. Giants had 7 batters come to the plate in the 4th inning, so that's 15 in 2 innings. 2-2. Ground ball wide of first, smothered by Davis, drops, recovers, throws, too late, and 2 runs will score. Sheridan came right in behind Mitchell. Giants. If Davis doesn't drop the ball after he fields it, he probably would have gotten him. That was a good stop. Whoops, and that was the difference.
Davis has worked very hard in his defense. When he first came in the league, he was not known as a good defensive player. A good effort to get to the ball, and Anderson in the bag. If the throw had been on the money, it would have been a close play. But very aggressive coaching by Bill Fahey at third base. Sheridan just kept right on going.
Though it is a 4-run 5th inning, it was ruled a base hit and 2 RBIs for Uribe. Mitchell, who scored, belonged to Scott. Sheridan, who scored, belonged to Anderson, so we can finally close the books on Mike Scott. 4 1/3 innings, 6 runs, 8 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. And now the Giants really have a day at the beach kind of a lead, 7-0. Fouled away. Mike Lacoste has to feel like a fat cat.
Kind of sitting in the catbird seat, isn't he? He's already got his 5 innings in. Lacoste, who a couple of years ago was a top winner on the Giant staff when he won 13. Been a swingman for him this year in relief and starting.
Ground ball hit slowly. Davis left the bag, so they have to wait a moment before feeding him. Most runs in a game by the Giants this year, 13, so they're halfway to that. Teams in the American League West on the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. The Oakland A's, Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire and company travel to Anaheim to battle the California Angels. It'll all start with Major League Baseball and Inside Look. That'll be next Saturday on NBC, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Larry Anderson gives up a run and a couple of hits, unable to stop the bleeding. The Giants score 4 in the 5th and now have broken it wide open, 7-0.
Didn't he have a great quote the other day? Wasn't it, you can young once, but you could be immature forever? Was that him?
Yeah. He's refreshing, to say the least. Gary Poole, Glenn Davis, and Ken Caminiti. I'm sure you're thinking about it. What kind of an attack can the Astros muster down 7-0? Well, the most runs that they have scored in a game, 12. They've done that 3 times. Mike Lacoste breezing now, 7-0. 7 runs, 10 hits for the Giants. No runs, 4 hits, and an error for the Astros. You know, the interesting thing, one of the many interesting things about that 18-2 Cincinnati victory over Houston, the fact the first inning took 38 minutes and the entire game took only 2 hours and 16 minutes.
What an amazing game that was.
Really? Well, here are some other games. San Diego leading the Dodgers 4-0 in the 8th inning. The Pirates trying to make life miserable for the Cubs. 2-1, bottom of the 7th. Strike to Poole, single to left and fouled out. 1 for 2. Poole, Davis, Caminiti. If anybody gets on, Anthony. The bunt fouled away. The Astros have been completely dead in the water here at Candlestick. Today, they have followed the pattern that has happened to them whenever they come here. They've gotten one man to third. They have not really generated any attack whatsoever. And they haven't but one earned run in 35 innings at the stick. 0-2. 0-1.
And part of it a compliment certainly to Mike Lacoste. Exactly what you just said. 0-2. He has done a lot of things just basically correct. Staying ahead of your hitters, throwing strikes.
Ground ball to the right side. Nice big hop for Robbie Thompson. One down. We just gave you a couple of National League scores. We can bring you up to date again on the American League. The Red Sox polished off Cleveland 10-2, and the Yankees nipped Toronto 5-4. Baltimore hosting Texas tonight. So for the moment, the Red Sox are 2 games back, and the Yankees 4.5. That will either revert to what it was at the start of the day or cut some more of it should Baltimore lose tonight. Baltimore has lost 8 out of 10. Hit up along third, charging the bare hand, picked up by Matt Williams, got him. Oh, what a big league play.
What a play by Matt Williams at third base. You may wonder, how can Glenn Davis button this situation? He's down 7 runs. What the Astros need are base runners. A good play, but Matt Williams really heads up. One of the beautiful things in baseball. And I think Brooks Robinson, the great third baseman for the Orioles, really showed it to everybody when he was in his prime. The beauty of what a third baseman is all about, the grace and picking that ball up barehanded in one motion. The key, of course, feeling it with the left foot out front 1 step and then get rid of the ball. You roll over and then look for the pitcher and say, did I get him?
It's the equivalent in baseball of the quarterback who gets the pass off and then he's killed by a defensive end and he doesn't know whether it was caught or not.
Ask somebody to lie on your back and say, did he catch it? Well, that's what the third baseman does on that play. That was a beautiful all-star play by Williams.
Oh, he's made 2 fine plays today. Anthony made 1 in right field and Young in center. So we're seeing some excellent defensive play. And the Giants have torn it open, leading the Astros 7-0 in the 6th inning. 1-1 to count to Ken Caminiti. He is the only Astro to get to third base today. Appropriately enough, he's the third baseman. Way out in front of that. 1-2. Roden will go for the Astros, and Bob Nepper, just picked up by the Giants, cut loose by the Astros. Nepper will start for the Giants. Goose Gossage has been given his release. 2-2.
That's Bob Nepper. Changing uniforms, but not unfamiliar as he played for San Francisco.
Sure did. 2-2. Ground ball wide. Up with it is Clark. Juggles, recovers, fires. It went off the glove of Lacoste and backed up by Kennedy. What made it so tough, the fact that after juggling, Clark had to throw the ball hard, and Lacoste unable to hold on to it.
2 good plays by the first baseman in this game today, getting to the ball. Clark, who juggled, had to fire the ball and just made the throw high. Good job by Lacoste getting there. Lacoste very quick off of the mound, but looking down for the bag and couldn't do that and catch the ball as well.
We do not have a call yet by the official scorer. The batter is Eric Anthony, ball 1. And now we get it. Error charged against Lacoste. So Caminiti aboard on the error. 2-0 the count. Anthony, who struck out and singled to right, distinguished himself with a fine running catch to take an extra base hit away from Kevin Mitchell back in the 2nd inning. Hit by the mound, down to second, and going to the bag is Robbie Thompson, so that's it. No runs, no hits, an error, a man left. The end of 5.5, 7-0, San Francisco. American import, NFL football. The Philadelphia Eagles, the Cleveland Browns, live in American Bowl 89. That's 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Brett Butler will start it off, then Robbie Thompson and Will Clark. Butler popped up to start the game, but then homered and doubled since, and Larry Anderson will be on the mound to greet him. So Butler hitting .280, checks in 2 for 3. For the Giants, they are apparently and obviously doing what they had hoped they would do after losing 9 out of 14 on the road trip to revitalize the division. They are coming home hoping to get well, and they won last night in heroic fashion 4-2. And they are leading here very comfortably 7-0. Ball 1.
They've only lost 15 times at home of the Giants, and they've got 31 more games here at Candlestick, just 22 on the road.
1 ball, no strikes. 22 the last 35. Will be played at home for the Giants, and the way they have reacted to home cooking, that will be a great advantage for them.
It's kind of funny. You look at it, the Giants more home games than road games, and the Astros, who have played well on the road, have more games on the road to finish the season than they do at home.
That's slapped into left field, so Brett Butler, who couldn't buy a base hit on the road trip, has come home. He had 6 hits in his last 46 at-bats, and he has 3 hits today, a single, double, and home run. That's the 3rd hit of Anderson, 11 hits in the game for the Giants. Robbie Thompson, 1 for 2. Everyone but Lacoste has a base hit now in the Giants starting lineup. Uribe got the base hit on Glenn Davis when he went wide of the bag in the 5th and couldn't get him. Strike. 0-1. 7-11 for San Francisco. 7 runs, 11 hits, and 1 error. The Astros, no runs, 4 hits, and 1 error. Giants scored 1 in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, and then broke it wide open with 4 in the 5th. Popped up on the right side. Davis looking for help. He'll get it from Reynolds, and the wind is blowing it, and Craig stays with it.
Boy, you see him shake his head. I mean, it's just a fight all the way. You've got to fight 2 elements, the sun and the wind here. Now he loses it for a second. You can see his palms go up, so you have no idea. Asking for help maybe from Eric Anthony, and then shaking his head going, wow. It's just tough in this ballpark. You get a very bright sun and the wind playing tricks with the ball.
I remember years ago the Giants would have a battery against the Dodgers here at Candlestick, and the Dodger pitcher would be Bill Singer and the catcher Bill Sudeikis, and each man wore contact lenses, and as anyone will tell you who wears contacts, wind has a tendency to dry out the fluid. And there you'd have Singer and Sudeikis, and Singer would be squinting in trying to read the signs. Sudeikis would be squinting out to make sure he could see the signs, and then occasionally one or the other would lose a contact lens. It was disastrous in this ballpark. 1 ball and no strikes. Will Clark grounded to short and struck out, and then doubled in the alley in left center in the 5th inning.
Of course, this ballpark at one time was all AstroTurf. You've since taken that out and replaced it with the natural grass. It used to be a rubberized covering around in the foul territories. One of the big problems they had was the wind and the blowing dust. That was the real problem. In the afternoon, the winds pick up and be swirls of dust. And what would happen, all this dust would go up into the stands, and on the fans would be sitting there watching the game and then end up getting dust all over them. They've got a special kind of dirt down there, it looks like now. They try to keep it as wet as they can to prohibit any kind of movement when the winds do come up.
3-1 to count to Will Clark. Kevin Mitchell on deck. 7-0 San Francisco, trying to beat the Astros for the 7th time in 11 meetings. And he walked him. So Anderson walks his second man. And Kevin Mitchell, robbed of a hit on a fine running catch by Eric Anthony, singled to right in the 4th inning and walked intentionally in the 5th. Mitchell has scored twice today. So 2 on, 1 out. 6th inning, 7-0 Giants. Mitchell with 34 home runs. He hit his 34th the other night at Dodger Stadium. 4-1.
You see in the paper the other day, when I got in here on Friday, Mitchell saying he went on the road trip without his contact lenses.
I was laughing about that because remember we were doing that game, the Tuesday night game, and we got into the theory. Dusty Baker was saying to him, you're dropping your right shoulder, you're opening your left shoulder. Remember, we're doing all that theory, right? And then finally he says I couldn't see the ball because he had left his contact lenses at home. Thanks, Kevin. That's great. That's great. The Astros are being cleaned, and they're getting angry at everybody, and now they're chewing on plate umpire Charlie Williams. 1 ball and no strikes. 1-1. I wonder when Dusty Baker was talking to Kevin about the shoulder and the head and the Framus and the Ramsey, if he finally said, hey, Dusty, it doesn't make any sense. I can't see the ball. 1-1. Check swing foul off to the right, and the count 1-2.
I think the spat between Art Howe and Charlie Williams behind the home plate, not calling a strike on Mitchell with a check swing, and Williams had called one earlier in the game against one of his players. That listen, I'm losing 7-0. I just want it both ways. That's all.
1-2. Got him. So Mitchell down on strikes. Take another look as that thing danced away from him.
Good hard slider down and away. Mitchell striking out for the 76th time this season. He opens up, maybe looking inside, and Anderson a good slider down and away. Not much he could have done with it, even if he did keep the front side closed.
Matt Williams double to left, robbed of an extra base hit on the great catch by Gerald Young, and then fouled out last time out. So Matt is 1 for 3, batting .208. Same slider, 0-1 to count. 7-0 Giants, bottom of the 6th. When the Astros come up in the 7th, they have Craig Reynolds, Gerald Young, and Larry Anderson, or a hitter. Giants could open up their own store. 7-11. And that's hit down the right field line, slicing in the corner, foul, and back into the crowd. 0-2 to Matt.
Is that considered an unsolicited commercial, or is it?
Well, it's a good name for a store.
I mean, if you were going to open a store, that's what you do. I understand that.
7 runs, 11 hits. It's a little unwieldy on the sign, but 0-2 to Matt Williams.
What happens if they get another hit? Would you call it the 7-12?
Sure. And Anderson thought he had strike 3, and he was heading for the dugout, and that's another log on the fire they're building around Charlie Williams. I mean, Anderson was sure this is strike 3.
One of the things you want out of the umpire is consistency.
Wow.
And sometimes when From the bench, you look out and say, what were you looking for? A knuckleball? That's the fastball on the inside part of the plate. And I think, well, as a pitcher, I'd want it too.
1-2. Hit off the end of the stick down to Glenn Davis. He'll walk it to the bag, and that's it. So the Giants come up empty in the 6th, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Particular memory that comes to mind?
You know, it was such a pleasure coming here because I had family out here in California. My mother and father would come up here, kids that I went to school with, but always a challenge pitching against this team because you're talking about McCovey and Mays and Cepeda. And, I mean, this is a ball club that historically scored a whole bunch of runs, and they were a challenge. They were tough to pitch against.
Did you ever pitch against Juan Marichal?
Oh, yes. And one of the greatest thrills I ever had, I came here as a youngster. My dad brought me to this ballpark, and I sat right by the Dodger dugout. I saw Juan Marichal, Sandy Koufax pitch. My father's, we stayed 9 innings, listened to it as we drove home. The rest of the game, it was 0-0 when we left.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You listened, and then you mean you left before the game was over?
My father left. Don't blame me, my dad.
I don't even want to talk about it. 7th inning, 7-0 Giants. Craig Reynolds single to right and hit into a force play. 1 for 2. And he's joined with Charlie Williams, and now Art House coming out to try and save him. What Reynolds was doing, he had his head down as if he was cleaning off home plate. But he was jawing, and now Howe is really ticked, and he's gone. So Art Howe and the Astros have been bickering and taking bites out of Charlie Williams. Howe got into an argument with John McSherry on the play that involved Glenn Davis in the 6th inning. And now finally the frustrations have spilled over for Art Howe, and he's gone.
They'll let Art stand there and get his 2 cents in. The frustration's exactly what it's all about. Ball club struggling since the All-Star break and getting really thumped when they're in Cincinnati, getting thumped here 7-0. Charlie Williams not pleasing Art Howe with his umpiring, and Art just saying, listen, I want it both ways, and lay off my pitchers and my players. You got something to say, you say it to me. And he's getting his money's worth. They're going at it pretty good.
In the old days, in the Polo Grounds in New York, you took the longest walk in baseball because the clubhouse was in center field 480 feet away. It's not that long a walk here, but if you are a visiting player or a visiting coach or manager, it is a painful hike to go all the way down the line, and Art Howe will have to experience it right now. Bill Garner saying something to him. Eventually he'll go down to that little shed and then through the door to the runway and back to the clubhouse. When you are kicked out of a game here, it's not as if you can hide somewhere. You're gone. You're way off the field. That's the pitch. Now watch Reynolds. He's not going to make any outward signs. He's going to start cleaning off home plate, but he's grumbling. That pitch was, wasn't even close. And what do you mean? And now it starts.
A good umpire won't do that. A good umpire won't contest him because the hitter is not showing the umpire up there. He's got his head down. He hasn't confronted the umpire. Nobody in the stands knows that they're having a discussion. That's something a little bit different a few years ago. It would not have been done that way. As long as you didn't show the umpire up, the umpire wouldn't come after you. Nothing wrong with a player having his say as long as you don't show the umpire up. Nothing wrong. There's a disagreement on whether a ball is a strike. You say, listen, let's have it both ways. If it's a strike for them, it's got to be a strike for us. As long as you don't show the umpire up, he's got no reason to come around and stick his nose in your business.
0-2 the count to Craig Reynolds. Little roller to the right side, Robbie Thompson. That takes care of Reynolds. 1 down in the 7th. And the batter will be Gerald Young, the center fielder. Mike Lacoste breezing along, a 4-hit shutout for 6 1/3 innings, allowing only one man to get to third base.
Going into the 7th inning, we talked about Lacoste being a swing man. This is his 35th game, his 9th start. So he has pitched out of the bullpen. He has started for Roger Craig as much much of his staff has done this year. Something that Roger Craig has had to shuffle his starters and shuffle his relievers. A ball club that only has 6 complete games. You wonder if this might be Mike Lacosse's last inning.
0-1 to count to Gerald Young. 1-1. I was just thinking, with Art Howe banished, it was probably a chore for him to watch the game years ago. Remember the immortal Frankie Frisch? And he managed in the big leagues, and we're talking about the time when he managed with the Chicago Cubs. 1-1 pitch. Ground ball to the right side. Robbie Thompson waits for the hop and takes care of him. 2 down. And Frankie Frisch lived in New Rochelle, New York. And he would come to New York with the Cubs, and there'd be a game like this, and the next thing you know, he'd get into a violent argument. And the umpires would say, "Oh, no, we know what you have in mind. You want to get out of here and go up to New Rochelle and prune your roses." And they wouldn't throw him out. And then finally, and this was the oddest thing I've ever seen in a ballpark, Harry Spillman is coming up to hit for Larry Anderson. In a game, the Cubs and the Dodgers in Ebbets Field, and Frankie Frisch was the manager sitting in the Cub dugout. And a decision went against the Cubs. And a lot of things you've seen come flying out of a dugout. Gloves, towels, equipment of all kinds. A hard-covered book came flying out of the dugout. Hard-cover book. 1 ball and no strikes. What a book. It turned out to be a book that Frankie was reading on the bench during the game, and got angry and hurled it. And the name of the book was Quiet Street. So managers, I don't know, maybe Art can just go back and turn his back on it for a little while. There is Dave Dravecky, and what an uplifting moment it is for all of us to see this fine young man back in a Giant uniform. Boy, that's a thrill. Shot up the middle, knocked down by Lacoste. He has plenty of time to get Spillman and rings him up. So the Astros are gone. Here's another edition of Characters of the Game.
Characters of the Game. Brought to you by A&W. Sit back and try yourself an A&W root beer or cream soda. He was called the human rain delay. When a pitcher faced Mike Hargrove, patience wasn't only a virtue, it was a requirement. This was Hargrove's exacting pre-pitch ritual. 3 warm-up swings, stretching the muscles, knocking the dirt off his shoes, cleaning that dirt off his bat, getting his left foot set, and oh yeah, adjusting the batting helmet and the batting glove. And he did it after every pitch. Hargrove at bat was a signal for the fans to go buy a hot dog or even run an errand, because he'd still be there when they got back. It's certainly safe to say he was the all-time leader when it came to extending the game. Mike Hargrove, a most deliberate character of the game.
Setting a candlestick with the Giants leading 7-0. We had a quick shot of Dave Dravecky a moment ago, now visiting with Bobby Thompson. Dravecky had a mass of tissue in his left arm operated on. It turned out to be cancerous. And everyone except Dravecky felt that, well, my gosh, he'd be finished. Not only is he not finished, he pitched particularly well the other night to beat Tucson. Now here he is in uniform, and there are definite feelings here that he's worked his way back, that he's going to get a start. Boy, we are all thrilled about that. That's a great story. Juan Agosto will start it off against Candy Maldonado. Ball and no strikes. Maldonado in and out of the lineup. So he's alternated with Pat Sheridan right now and Greg Litton. Foul tip, 1-1.
One of the things managers have had to do here in Candlestick Park with a number of day games after night games, Vinny, using your bullpen, using your bench, giving guys certain days off. And a high number of day games relative to the rest of the league played here because of the weather.
1 ball, 1 strike. Fouled off. And of course, for Houston, when they were lathered 18-2, Art Howe took pains to point out what a great job Bob Force did. Because in that runaway game, Jim Clancy didn't have it, and then Force picked up and pitched the rest of the game and really saved their bullpen. One and 2 to Maldonado. 2 and 2. Yogi Berra, who knows all about the ups and the downs. He knows all about problems managing and coaching and playing. That's hooked down the left field line in the corner. Foul. So Maldonado will come back and try it again.
You know, talking about Art Howe coming out and getting thrown out of the game, one of the things that is on his mind, his ball club not playing well. And one of the things that a manager has to do is continue to remind his ball club, and especially the young players on his ball club, that he is still an emotional aspect of the game, that yes, we're not playing well, but we've got to keep fighting and keep stirring it up, keep having some emotion.
Strike 3 call to Maldonado.
So he's really sending a message to the players that are on the bench, to the young players, that yes, we're in a pennant race and every out is important. Every call by the umpire, every at-bat, every ground ball is important. And that's how you should approach your work. One of the things a manager can do is send a message, not by just simply talking to the players, by what he does on the field. And if you don't think that Art Howe has an emotional attachment to his ball club in this race, then you weren't watching him in an argument with Charlie Williams. Yeah, they were going nose to nose.
Ground ball to the right side. Craig Reynolds is there to take care of it. So Kennedy rolls out. 2 down in the 7th inning. 7-0 Giants. And the batter will be Jose Uribe. Uribe fouled out, was walked intentionally, and had an infield single. That infield single was good enough to pick up 2 runs thanks to the hustle of Pat Sheridan. Uribe hitting .235. Next Saturday we'll be down the road a piece in Anaheim, the Big A, to see the Oakland A's and the California Angels.
Well, that should be a great game, huh?
Tremendous interest, of course, here in the Bay Area over the chance, and there is a chance.
Good chance.
The Giants and the A's wind up in the World Series. No balls and 2 strikes. Greg Litton is out on deck to bat for Mike Lacoste. No sense burning him out. Ernie Camacho throwing in the bullpen. No balls, 2 strikes. When the Astros hit in the 8th inning, they'll have Biggio, Ramirez, and Poole. Ball 1, 1-2. How do you keep the adrenaline going if you're a pitcher with a big lead? Do you remember the biggest lead you ever won by? Pretty hard to, I guess.
I really don't remember. I can't remember from a number standpoint.
But
how do you keep it?
Yeah, in other words, you're out there, you're leading 10-0.
Good question. It may take me longer than 1 out to answer this, and I'll keep it going because Gil Hodges, who was the manager of the New York Mets, and I had a little meeting about that one day. And I was pitching against, it was in my 2nd year, 1968, I was pitching against Juan Marichal, who we had talked about earlier in the day today, a great right-hander for the San Francisco Giants, and I was pitching at Shea Stadium, and I got ahead of Juan Marichal. Now remember, I'm just a young kid out of the San Joaquin Valley, and I used to watch him when I was in Koufax when I was growing up. And here I am, I hit 7-1 or something, like in the 3rd or 4th inning. And I got real giddy and gay and figured I was pretty big for my britches, right? For I know it scored 7-6. And when I was throwing well, the next next afternoon, Mr. Hodges invited me into his office for a little tete-a-tete, you may say. I don't think Gil would have gone.
No, he wouldn't. No. But what did he say in essence?
He said it was really a kind of a fatherly talk in the sense of maintaining concentration, maintaining your level of application, maintaining intensity. He says because when you let yourself down, it doesn't mean that you can bring yourself right back up. And don't let your intensity be dependent on the score, on the month, on the day, how many people are in the stands, what the temperature is. It makes no difference. Your level of intensity stays the same. I benefited from that little meeting for about 19 years, so it didn't make any difference. It was 9-0 or 1-0. The level of intensity stayed exactly the same. How you went about your business was exactly the same. Mechanically, you might change a little bit more if you're way ahead in a ball game. You might come off the corners a little bit, come to the middle of the plate a little bit more, stay away from the bases on balls, but mentally the game is the same.
Fly ball into right center field. Gerald Young moving over and puts it away. So that's it in the 7th inning for the Giants. They leave Uribe, and it's still 7-0 San Francisco. Who batted for Michael Lacoste stays in the game in second base. Andy Maldonado, who batted for Pat Sheridan, stays in the game in right field. And Ernie Camacho, the new pitcher, goes into the lineup. And we go to the 8th inning, 7-0 Giants. Put Camacho in Robbie Thompson's spot. Biggio to begin it. Flied to right, flied to left, and fouled out, and drills it foul.
I guess Roger Craig doesn't want to shock the rest of the National League. He got a complete game victory out of Robinson last night. He very easily could have one today out of Lacoste. He's pitching a shutout, and he takes him out.
0-1. The Giants, with Robinson pitching that complete game to give him 3, they have a half a dozen. That's one less than the complete game total that Mike Scott has. 1-1. Big chopper foul. 1-2.
Some talk of possibly moving Biggio to a different position. He runs so extremely well. 15 out of 16 this year in stolen bases. You know, a kid that has just played 1 full year in the minor leagues. He was rushed a little bit last year to the big leagues. He had 375 in A-ball Asheville and comes up to the big leagues here and hitting right at 290.
In the dirt to the screen, he's getting very close to 370 for about 2.5 weeks now. He's really a hot hitter. Craig Biggio, went to Seton Hall University.
You were talking earlier about a catcher in the leadoff position and move around. A great asset what youth is, you know. I mean, and the quickest way to get old on a baseball field is behind the plate. You can really get beat up back there. Wear and tear on the knees. And the Astros, if in fact you really feel that Biggio can be a 300 hitter, may want to move him to a different offensive position. He has good movement behind the plate. His throwing is average. I mean, he is certainly not a Johnny Bench or a Carlton Fisk in the throwing department.
Hopper to third. Right there is Matt Williams. He doesn't fool around. He gets rid of it right away. 1 down in the 8th inning. Just to bring you up to date on what's been going on in the major leagues today, San Diego leading the Dodgers 4-2 bottom of the 9th, and Pittsburgh leading the Cubs 2-1 in the 9th inning. The American League, Boston defeated Cleveland 10-2, and the Yankees beat Toronto 5-4. So you're up to date on all those games played today. Here's Ramirez, flied to left, single to center, hit into a double play, and first ball swinging, hits a fly ball to Brett Butler. 2 down. For the Astros, and of course remember, they have 1 earned run in 37 innings here at Candlestick. So to say that they have stopped hitting, it wouldn't necessarily mean today, but they have stopped hitting. They don't have a hit since the 4th inning, and they've had only 4 singles in the game. Terry Poole single to left, fouled out to left, and grounded out. So going into this game, you felt the only way the Astros were going to be in it, they were going to have to get a strong performance from Mike Scott. And when Scotty was blown out of the water, that was that. And that was in the 5th inning. Of course, you also realize, because of that 18-2 loss, that the last 3 Astro games, including today, they've been outscored 29-4. 1-1. But what that really means, never mind the 29 run, in the last 3 games, the Astros have not averaged 2 runs a game, and you're not going to go to the bank with that very often. 1-2 the count to Terry Poole. Mike Lacoste won a strong 7. Steve Bedrosian tuning up down in the bullpen. So Lacoste won 7. Camacho is working the 8th. They might bring Bedrock in to pitch the 9th. Ball 3.
Lacoste a very strong 7 innings, 4 hits, all of them coming in the first 4 innings. The thing about them is the first 3 hits, a single in the first after 2 are out, a single in the second after 2 are out, a single in the third after 2 are out. 3 of the 4 base hits, singles coming after 2 are out.
And you don't have to overpower people. Lacoste walked 2 and struck out 1. And we now get the final. The Padres beat the Dodgers 4-2, so the rubber game of that series is tomorrow, since the Dodgers won last night. Glenn Davis flied to left, robbed of a hit by Matt Williams, and then to show you the plight of the Astros, their only true power hitter tried to bunt his way aboard in the 6th inning. It made sense. They had to get something started. He's 0 for 3. One ball and 1 strike to count. 2 out in the 8th. 7-0 Giants. They're trying to make it 5 straight against the Astros here at Candlestick, and they will have then beaten Houston 7 of the 11. Two balls, 1 strike. Terry Poole at first with 2 out. The Astros have gotten 1 man to third, and that's the only man to get to second as well, and that was back in the 4th inning, so they've had no attack whatsoever. 3-1. Full count to Glenn Davis.
Davis guessing fastball. Looked like he's trying to hit a 7-run home run there. The Astros need base runners.
So with 2 down, Camacho walks Poole and Davis, and that'll bring up Caminiti. Ken Caminiti grounded to short, walked in the 4th inning, and reached on the error. Charged to Lacoste in the 6th inning. 2 on, 2 out in the 8th. 7-0 Giants. Fouled away off third, well back into the crowd. 0-1 to count. Rick Rhoden and Bob Neppert tomorrow.
Good off-speed pitch by Camacho when he first came up in the big leagues. He was considered one of the hardest throwers in the game. He could really rush it up to home plate.
1-2.
Now a sequence of off-speed pitches. Now life does change for a pitcher in the big leagues. The old saying about hitters would have wait and be quick. You could forget about the first part of that saying. You don't have to wait, just be quick.
Well, he's pitching as if he had a one-run lead, working corners, and with 2 out, he walks Poole, he walks Davis, and now he goes 2-2 to Ken Caminiti. And he goes 3-2 to Caminiti. And this crowd, a little restless. The paid attendance today, 33,736. 33,736. Runners go, and it's fouled away. Now that's 9,000, almost 10,000 above the average here. And they should have another big crowd tomorrow. Rick Rhoden and the return of Bob Knepper. Knepper last pitch here in 1980 when he was a 9-game winner. Cut loose by the Astros. He will start against the Astros tomorrow. Runners go. Got it. No runs, no hits, 2 left, and it's still 7-0 Giants. Astros 7-0. Remember the old song about Clancy lowered the boom? Dennis Day used to sing it. Well, the boom got lowered on Clancy the last time out. Jim was the starting pitcher in that Cincinnati runaway 18-2. So he gets a little work today with a strike. It's been Scott and Anderson, Augusto and Clancy. The Giants, Lacoste and Camacho. Butler, home run, double, single in that order. Whack foul. 0-2 to Brett, who has gotten well upon returning home.
Think he's trying to hit a triple? Going for the cycle. Who hit it the other day? Somebody go for a cycle the other day? I think somebody did.
Ground ball to the right of second base. Handled there by Reynolds to take care of him. 1 away. Yeah, I think Kevin McReynolds.
Somebody? Yeah. Somewhere in the back of my mind.
Kevin McReynolds.
All right. You going to vote for Kevin McReynolds?
Kevin McReynolds. Right.
All right. I'll vote for Howard Johnson. Somewhere in the back of my mind, the last couple of weeks, it seems that somebody went for the cycle.
Ernest Riles at the plate with 1 out in the 8th inning. 7-0 Giants. Riles hitting .273. He has always been a good hitter. On deck, Will Clark. So Bedrosian has been throwing in the bullpen. Randy McCammon down there in the bullpen with him. McCammon, the inside man. Ground ball wide of first, backhanded by Davis. Overhands to Clancy coming over. 2 down in the 8th inning. The Cubs, turning one around, have scored 2 to take a 3-2 lead as the Pirates come to bat in the bottom of the 9th. So the Cubs began the day 1 game back of Montreal. Montreal is at Shea Stadium and the Mets tonight with Mark Langston and Ron Darling due to go. 1 ball and no strikes the count to Will Clark. Grounded to short and struck out. Doubled in a run and walked. 2-0 the count.
One of the strengths the Astros have, and if they're going to be in this National League West race and stay in it, is going to be the strength of their starting pitching.
Hit down to Craig Reynolds, who was playing him in the hole. So Clark goes down. The Giants go quietly, and at the end of 8, 7-0 San Francisco. Leading 7-0, so it'll be the last go-round. The Houston Astros will have Eric Anthony, Craig Reynolds, and then Gerald Young. And Steve Bedrosian will finish up for the Giants. Lacoste went 7. Camacho worked the 8th. And now Bedrosian. 1-0. On the hands, hit back of first, fielded there by Clark. 1 away. The executive producer of NBC Sports, Terry O'Neill. The coordinating producer for NBC Baseball and the producer of today's game, John Joseph Filippelli. The telecast of today's game of the week has been directed by Bucky Guntz. Pregame produced by Les Dennis. Pregame directed by Joe Michaels. Technical directors Mike Stromisky and Richard Sansevier. With John Filippelli and Bucky Guntz, we have been in good hands.
We most certainly have. John J. Filippelli will be my airplane partner this evening, and I will hear about every mistake that I made through this entire broadcast.
Craig Reynolds singled, hit into a force play, grounded out 1 for 3.
But then I will ask him how he is getting home from the airport. That's what.
Then 7-0 Giants, 1 away, 9th inning. 3-0 the count.
Bedrock getting some work in here. One of the things that manager, pitching coach want to do, even though it is not a game situation, obviously, it's 7-0, is to keep your bullpen sharp. And your short relievers, they need a whole lot of lengthy work, but they do need work. I was talking a little bit before about Jim Clancy for the Astros, and Art Howe, if his ball club is going to be in it. And one of the things that Art Howe says, he's going to have to get more innings out of Jim Clancy. They're going to make it on the strength of their starting pitching, and Mike Scott and Deshays and Rick Rhoden, who's pitching very well for them, but going to have to get more innings out of Clancy.
The Astros have only been shut out 5 times this year, and they have been thoroughly blanked 7-0 into the 9th inning today. The only attack of late has been a base on balls. First it was Camacho who walked 2. Now suddenly Bedrosian, with 1 out, gives up a walk and falls behind 2-0 to Gerald Young. Bill Doran is out on deck to bat for Clancy. That's a strike. 7 runs, 11 hits for the Giants. No runs, 4 hits for the Astros. Walk 2, Camacho walked 2, Bedrosian has given up a walk. So the Astros have had 4 hits and 5 walks. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Lifted foul out of play. In amongst the customers, 33,736 today. And I'm sure they'll have a big crowd here tomorrow when Rick Rhoden will go for Houston. The former Giant, former Astro, and now newest Giant, Bob Knepper, will go for San Francisco. That's hit foul off third. Matt Williams trying to get under it. Can't do it. Afraid of the wall.
Second time today, same kind of thing. Just runs out of territory. Fighting the wall, fighting the wind, and finding the sun right in his eyes. A lot of room to work with over there. And that wall is concrete. If you run into it, I guarantee you the wall's going to win.
2 balls and 2 strikes. So Matt Williams troubled, but that 7-0 lead will make him feel a lot better. 3-2 the count. Bedrosian with 14 saves. He's had 8 saves with the Giants. Of course, this does not fulfill the definition of a save. Going to be hit into left field for a base hit. Reynolds will go to second and hold, and Bill Doran will come up and hit for Clancy. And for the Astros, kind of a murmur of protest. It's their first base hit since the 4th inning, and it is their 5th single. So there's no power at all. And here is Bill Doran.
Doran getting a rest today. You'll see his average 239. 8 home runs, 55 RBIs. He has really been struggling. There is a word in the game of baseball called gamer. That's a guy that would just do anything in the world to beat you. A guy that always has his uniform the dirtiest. Perfect for Bill Doran.
Fly ball to right center. Maldonado needing help, and he gets it from Butler. Andy Maldonado did everything but run up a distress flag. He had all kinds of trouble The wind was bringing the ball to him, but the glare is overwhelming. And he was saying, where are you? And Butler said, well, we'll let the Butler do it.
Looking right into the sun, and Butler coming from another direction gets another angle on the ball. Doesn't look directly into the sun. Boy, the plus of a veteran center fielder. A good job by Butler. Good coordination between the two of them.
2 down, 9th inning, 7-0 Giants. Craig Biggio takes ball 1. LaCrosse will get the win. He'll be 6-7, 1-1, 5-10 lifetime. Mike Scott will suffer the loss. He'll be 17-6, 1-1, and 13-9 lifetime. And he'll be under 500 here at Candlestick Park. 1-1 to Craig Biggio. Reynolds at second, Young at first with 2 out. Bedrosian trying to slam the lid down on it. Ball 2, 2-1. It was scoreless to the bottom of the 3rd. The Giants got 1 in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, and then broke the game wide open with 4 in the 5th. Whack foul down the left field line into the seats. 2-2. Behind Biggio is the shortstop, Rafael Ramirez. Popped in the air. Will Clark in foul ground. Shades down. He's got it. No runs, 1 hit, and 2 left. And this one is history. The Giants 7 runs, 11 hits, and an error. The Astros no runs, 5 hits, and an error. The Giants, who squandered a 4.5 game lead and went out on a road trip only to come back here leading by 1, now lead the Astros by 3. Mike Scott the loser, Mike LaCoste the winner. Tomorrow, Roden and Nepper, and we'll be back to Candlestick Park in the aftermath of the Giant victory right after this.
Motors, who invites you to come see the full line of cars and trucks. By Crest, the dentist's choice to help keep your teeth tartar-free. And by American Airlines, something special in the air.
The Giants beat the Astros 7-0 and lead them by 3. A couple of program reminders. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, the American Bowl 89. From London, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cleveland Browns. Then at 4 p.m. tomorrow, NBC Sports World, boxing, 12-round IBF Featherweight Championship, Paez and Cruz, and Subaru's NFL's Fastest Man. And, of course, next Saturday, Tom and I will be down at Anaheim to watch the collision between the California Angels and the Oakland A's, and that'll start with Major League Baseball and Inside Look. That's next Saturday right here on NBC. Well, Tom, it looks as if the Giants are home, well, and thriving, and if the Astros are going to get back into contention, they'll have to do it the hard way on the road.
Well, it was a big day for the Astros to get back into it. You talk about the Giants, only 15 losses here at Candlestick, a great home team. On the other side of the coin, the Astros coming in with their big gun, Mike Scott. And if you're going to snap out of it after a loss on Friday night, he was the guy that was going to do it for you, and he did not pitch well today.
So the Giants, who lost 9 out of 14 and squandered a 4.5 game lead, have done what people think they will do. They are recouping here at Candlestick. They now have a record of 36-15 at home. We'll see you next week from Anaheim. For Tom Seaver, Vin Scully saying so long.
The preceding has been a presentation of NBC Sports.